Hi everybody, LG here, and welcome to r/entitled_parents. This one's from user Loves Spain. Guitar Karen demands my time slot because her son needs something to do after school. This happened a couple of days ago and I thought you guys would enjoy it. As a bit of a backstory, I play the electric guitar. I take lessons from a teacher that is absolutely the best in the area at what he does. He's been doing it for about 30 years now, so he's really good. Understandably, he's also really booked up. When COVID hit and everyone started doing online classes for school, he lost a bunch of students because they'd typically go to his class after school. And since they weren't in school or doing extracurricular activities, their parents, I guess, decided to yank them from guitar lessons too. One of the things that makes my teacher awesome is that he tends to give scheduling priority to his older students, like me, 41, because they don't give him the headache of having to manage every little thing between this and that thing for school. It kind of sucks for parents, but he's had enough of the headaches of rearranging everyone's life because little Johnny has to play his leading role of being a rock in the school play. Now, this matters because now that kids are starting to go back into the classroom where I live, parents are blowing up his phone trying to schedule their little darlings back into lessons, while us older folks have been dutifully attending or doing online lessons and paying the whole time. So if you've been doing that all this time and you've got the 3:30 slot and you like it, that's where you stay. This matters because of Guitar Karen. Guitar Karen's son used to take lessons, but she pulled him out for the last 9 months or so. In-school classes are starting up, and Guitar Karen wants as little to do with her kid as possible. So she has apparently enrolled him in every possible after-school activity that exists. I know this because my teacher rolls his eyes as our lesson is about to begin because his phone is pinging like crazy. I thought it might be an emergency or something, so when he returned to the room, I said, "Your phone has been going crazy." He normally turns it off during our session, and he just mutters something and turns it off. Talking about how this woman has signed her kid up for track, baseball, art, band, and now guitar, and in order to ensure he has something to do every single day of the week, he absolutely must have this 4 o'clock slot. You can imagine where this is going. Guess whose slot that is? Mine. I'm super flexible with regard to the days of the week, just not the time of day, because I work until then. I told him as much, but he's like, "No, I'm not moving you, don't worry." He turns off his phone and we continue in our lesson. Within 5 minutes, his computer is going bing, 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 bing. And he's like, "Holy mother of flack," and shuts the lid. Blissful silence for the remainder of our lesson, until he opens the classroom door and there stands Guitar Karen. A kind of heavy-set woman with her lips pursed like she's gonna give you a kiss and her brow looking like it has permanently stuck itself in the scowl position and a Mama Bear t-shirt on. I crap you not. "You!" she yells at me. Now, I've never seen this lady in my life, but she's got no mask on, so my instinctive reaction is to social distance my ass right the hell away from her. But she just Godzilla stomps her way in, knocking over a music stand and sending papers everywhere. She turns and shouts at the teacher, "Why won't you give my son this time spot? He needs it. You need to reschedule your other students and stop singling me out because my son has other activities." The poor guy can't get a word in edgewise. She's standing in the doorway so I can't leave. She looks me up and down, me, who is very much a t-shirt and jeans kind of lady and is wearing a t-shirt that says, "I like heavy metal, coffee, cats, and maybe 3 people," and is like, "I bet you don't even have a job. You're probably some washed out college dropout. Why'd you pick this time slot anyways? Is it because you knew someone like me might need it? You need to give it to my son." I also can't say a damn word because this woman just won't shut up. Now, let me reiterate that my teacher is the chillest guy on the planet, but he nearly died last year from sepsis on top of the whole COVID thing. So he's really understandably pissed when someone gets in your face and is stabbing your chest with their long-nailed fingers and spraying insults without a mask on. He gets between me and her and says, You need to back up or get out. They take their confrontation out into the hallway. He tells me to go ahead and leave and he'll handle her. I hear him tell this lady, "Listen, Opie has been with me for years, and I'd better never hear you insult her or any of my other students ever again. Your behavior is disgusting and you need to leave the premises now before I call security." We don't have security in the building, but she doesn't need to know that. He was so fired up, I think he could have landed her flat on her ass in that moment. She turns completely meek and is like, "What about lessons for my son?" And at this point, the teacher was like, "Absolutely not." And she's like, "But he needs this." And the teacher said, "Not my problem," and acted as if he were dialing security on his phone. She scuttled out of there as I was leaving the parking lot. I wanted to give my teacher the biggest high five. He later told me he didn't hear from her since then, but he thinks this isn't the last encounter. I imagine she's the type of person that will come down there every weekday at the time to berate whichever poor student has that spot because her son obviously needs it. Oh, what an obnoxious person. I hope my voice was on point for that one because I was really trying to give her that crappy character of a Karen. Some people, man. I mean, first of all, she goes about it insulting everybody she can and then expects them to move around things for her? Get the F out of here. Anyways, like I said, whenever there's an update, I will give it priority. And this story has an update, so let's continue with the next part. I wish I could say I was surprised by how she reacted, but I can't say I really would put anything past this lady now. So, now that the majority of kids are back in school, some of them have, surprise, been exposed to COVID, or someone that might have had it. My teacher has a rule that if you've been around it, please do everyone the favor of self-quarantining and doing your next 2 weeks of classes online. He's got a very professional setup for delivering classes that way. Cameras set up so you can see his hands close up and so on. The point is, he's invested a lot in making this little online studio in the storage closet of the classroom. This is relevant for what happens later. My lesson starts. Phones off, computer closed. And about 10 minutes after we start, there's a knock at the door. He thought maybe a prior student left something, so he opened it without thinking. And there is Guitar Karen's son standing there with his case, staring at his shoes. You guys, she dropped him off and went to Burger King down the street. Just left him there. I heard him say that, "My mom said she discussed it with you and that I could come back and take lessons at this time because no other time was available." He even hands the teacher a check. We prepay for lessons each month. The teacher will not accept the check. He's actually really calm and polite to the kid. I mean, it's not the kid's fault his mom is a banshee. He tells the kid that he's in the middle of a lesson right now and could he call his mom to come pick him up. He says he'll try, but a lot of times she doesn't answer. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. She didn't answer this time either, but he just said he'd walk back over to the Burger King and off he went. I wish I could have told you guys that we called the police for child abandonment, but he knew exactly where his mom was, and I guess she figured if she dropped him off with a check at this time, the teacher would have no choice but to let him in. Especially because small businesses struggling due to COVID and needing all the customers they could get. I think that sort of mentality has gotten her pretty far in getting what she wanted when she wanted it. This was not one of those times. The lesson goes on without incident, and this time I figure Karen will be standing at the door again with steam coming out of her ears. But she wasn't, and I thought, well, maybe that's that. Oh no, I passed them both in the hallway as I turned the corner to leave. Nope, I'm not passing this up. So I stand there and wait. Sure enough, a few minutes later, the conversation goes something like, "I thought I told you not to come back here again or I was calling security. You took my money, so now you owe my son lessons." Kid pipes up and unfolds the check from his pocket. Mom realizes she has lost that leverage and didn't seem to have planned ahead for what to do next. She sees the little studio setup the teacher's got going on there and says that if he won't let her son have lessons in person, then the teacher at least owes her son a month of online lessons for all the trouble she has gone through, at the same time slot, of course. At this point, the person whose lesson is after mine comes in. His name is Jim, but I call him Fluffy. He's a big guy, super nice, teaches jujitsu, as friendly as a puppy, but has the most booming voice I've ever heard. Did I mention the acoustics in this place were good? Because they're great. And he hears this Karen screeching at my teacher, comes up behind her and the kid. I'm at the far end of the hall at this point because I had to see how this was going to play out. And I hear him below. Is there a problem here, ma'am? The kid nearly jumps out of his shoes and Karen whirls around like she's about to stick her claw of a fingernail into this guy's chest, but her head probably comes up to his chest, and next thing you know, she's looking up at this tower of a human being. She squeaks that, "We were just leaving," and I book it out the door to my car. Later on, I texted my teacher to see if anything else happened. He explained the situation to Fluffy, and the big guy said if the teacher needs someone to play the role of security, he can absolutely hang around there a bit earlier than normal to ward off the Karen. So that's where we are right now. I think he scared her crapless. I hope so. Ah, man, the nerve of some people. First of all, dropping the kid off with a check and just leaving, that's a crappy move. And then demanding free online lessons for all the trouble she's gone through. No. You haven't gone through any trouble. You are the one causing the trouble. You are a problem. Anyways, let's put this headache of a Karen behind us and move on to the next story. This one's from user Happy Hobbiness. Entitled mom buys an explicit book for a young entitled kid. So this happened about 4 years ago when I was 15 and got my first part-time job at a big bookstore. Background. I was normally working at the manga section, which was quite big and there were super nice people, but this time I had to check people's books because my colleague was sick. Story. I was at the cash register while entitled mom came with her 12-year-old daughter. They had some school books and then historical romance books, which I loved and still do. I noticed that one of the books had some sex scenes since I read it not too long ago. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but is this book for you?" I asked her politely. "No, it's for my daughter. Can't you see that everything here is for her?" She answered quite rudely. "I hope you know that this book has some naughty scenes," I said while she mumbled, "Whatever." I checked her out and said goodbye. A week later, my supervisor calls me to the cash register and there is entitled mom with entitled kid. You could feel that her entitlement was in the air. As I walked closer, I smiled while I knew I was going to get yelled at. "Couldn't you tell me there were sex scenes?" she yelled while smashing the book on the table. I was taken aback as she yelled much louder than I expected. "I did tell you there were these scenes." I was super close to yelling at her but decided not to. Firstly, I needed money, and secondly, I liked working there. "You didn't, and now my angel is scarred for life." "Yes," she said, scarred, while she probably already had sex ed in school. "Can we give her a refund?" I asked my supervisor, as I didn't want to deal with her anymore and just go back to my section and look what new mangas we had. He just nodded and gave her a full refund and said she can leave. She was a special one because she yelled that they should fire me on her way out. My supervisor said he knew I had warned her, as he knew that I don't want to ruin a childhood to some random kid. What's up with this Karen? Opie actually told her that there was content in there that might not be appropriate for her daughter. But Karen couldn't be bothered to listen, so she just did whatever she wanted to do, like most Karens do, right? But then her little angel was scarred for life. Ugh, idiot. Anyways, after that short palate cleanser of a story, let's move on to the final story of the video. This one's from user Foxy Freckles 1989. Entitled mom wants resort upgrades for a resort she's not staying in and puts the actual safety of her nearly drowned son behind being found out. This happened Memorial Day opening weekend of 2006, but feels like yesterday, and the details will always be fresh in my mind. It's long, but definitely an enraging story worth reading. This is my first post here. My first legitimate job at age 16 was as a lifeguard for both the indoor and outdoor pools at a large lake resort. I had absolutely nothing to do with reservations, rooms, housekeeping, the restaurants, etc. I was an effing lifeguard. It was my third day on the job. Anybody could access the outdoor pool, and since the resort was located in a state park open to the public, we often had people coming up from the lake and the marina trying to swim in the pool. Anybody could buy a season pass or a single day entry to the pools. And we had 2 employees that would periodically walk the outdoor pool deck to check for either room keys or pool passes. One day, a woman was letting her young son swim freely without any supervision. Was sitting at a table with an umbrella on the corner of the deck, slurping down alcoholic beverages. She kept sending her slightly older daughter over to my lifeguard stand to complain about things. My mommy wants to know why nobody has come to take another drink order. My mommy says the umbrella doesn't give enough shade and wants to know if we can move to the upper deck. The upper deck was reserved for guests of the resort and had assigned tables and chairs with umbrellas per room number. The third time this kid came up to me, without taking my eyes off the water, I told her to let her mommy know that the lifeguards weren't in charge of any of those things, and that I couldn't carry on conversations with anybody while keeping people safe in the pool. Daughter goes back over to mom. Mom walks over and pulls son from the water to talk to him for a minute, and then son gets back to swimming. I'm actively scanning and can see all of this. 5 minutes later, entitled mom comes storming over to my stand and demands that I give her a spot on the upper deck. When I refused to look in her direction and started to tell her she'd need to talk to the front desk, she, somewhat quietly, hissed at me about how rude I was being. Next thing I know, son goes underwater. He's in the deep end where he can't touch and isn't a strong swimmer. He was holding onto the ledge but got distracted. I wonder what by, and let go. I immediately blow my whistle and jump in, pull him up and out of the pool and start assessing him. The other guard on duty blows her whistle and empties the water, protocol for a rescue there. Everyone is watching and entitled mom screams, "How dare you ignore my requests? How dare you embarrass my son and me like this?" She yanks her son up by the arm and starts pulling him towards their table, as I follow and tell her we need to wait for the emergency medical service to arrive, which the other lifeguard has called to the front desk and requested via radio. She screams, "He is fine and we are leaving." Son is coughing up water and crying, and I attempt to tell mom about delayed, dry drowning. By now, the aquatics and resort manager are walking in our direction. The managers both make it to us, and entitled mom is refusing to wait for the emergency service, screaming that she's a certified nursing assistant and can care for her own son, that dry drowning isn't real, and that we can't keep them there. The aquatics manager asks her to stay long enough to fill out an incident report or refusal form, and the resort manager asks for her room number so they can be checked on later. This is when everything clicks. Entitled mom has no room number, which I already knew but didn't have time to mention to my manager. No pool pass and no right to be there at all. She's willing to risk her son's life in order to avoid this information becoming apparent. She snuck in after the last deck check and planned to leave as the next started, about a 2-hour window. Daughter is crying now, saying, "Mommy said we were coming here to swim and get ice cream." Entitled mom is screaming about suing me and the resort and is belligerent enough that management determines she's drunk and can't drive with her kids. Park rangers show up, followed by the emergency medical service, and the rest is out of my hands and I honestly don't know what happened to them. I do know the family was permanently banned from the resort though. That was the first rescue I ever made, and I was commended for it by management and other poolgoers. It was a wild Sunday. I went on to be a lifeguard for nearly 15 years, at pools and lakes and the ocean, as well as to manage my own pools. I could tell endless stories of entitled parents and children that I dealt with on a regular basis, especially as a pool manager, but this is always the story that sticks out in my head, since it was my first job and my first rescue. She is not just an entitled parent because, she wanted to be there for free, but she was actively neglecting her son swimming in the pool while she was zipping back drinks. And on top of that, she was willing to risk her son's life just to not get caught. Ugh. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you liked it, then go ahead and click like, or you can even share it to somebody that you think might enjoy it. Of course, if you still haven't joined our community, it's super simple. Just need to click that red subscribe button and you're in. On top of that, if you'd like to engage with other people of the community, all you need to do is just join the Discord server. There's a link in the description, plus other links that you might find interesting. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you did enjoy it. I'll see you guys on the next video.